Hi, and welcome to Keen Minds. We're covering Season 5, Episode 9 of NBC's The Blacklist, Ruin. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I am Tessa, about the only optimist left in this podcast.
Yeah, guys, even I've fallen off my entirely optimistic horse and probably been run over by it by this point. So,
And just so you know, I'm seeing from here Jen's giant glass of wine, and you cannot see, but I have a decent sized glass of like 45-year-old port.
I didn't realize that was port. Gosh,
Yeah.
share. See,
Mm.
this is the only way I got through the episode last night. Wine does wonders.
I only needed this for the podcast. I was fine with the episode. But I've been shaking since the morning.
Apparently,
figuring
I
out about
have
this
her
podcast.
terrified. See, she can actually see my face. None of the rest of you have seen my face when I'm ranting. But you've seen
Mm.
my blog. Probably most of the people that are listened to our podcast have probably seen my blog today with the anons I've had, and my responses have been a little less chipper than usual.
Yeah, we can say that.
You know what? We always ask, did you enjoy the episode? Tessa, you want to go first?
And yes, I did. I actually enjoyed the episode very much. I do see the comparison to Kate May. It's not about the quality of the writing because Kate May was an episode almost. Um, I always compare it to a poem or the lyrics of a song. It's not. It wasn't linear. It had a lot of mythology, but very well disguised as something else. I enjoyed this. It was a tour de force for Megan Boone. I think that she did terrific. And I was satisfied with what I got. So I know that I'm pretty much alone among most of the Keen 2 fans and the Tom Keen fans in actually liking the direction of the show and it being something I expected it from it. So that said, how about you, Jen?
Well, let's go off of what I liked to begin with, because we'll get into the details as we go along of the likes and dislikes. I did think Megan did excellent. Megan was top of her game. She was very believable, very good. I very much enjoyed her performance. I enjoyed the wake. I mean, I yeah. Otherwise, I have some very definite opinions about the writing, and I think what hurts the most is that I have been a staunch supporter of these writers for quite a while now. For anybody that knows my history and fandom, I came out of another show in which the writers are apparently kind of notorious for starting strong and then just flittering off into the universe and forgetting that they are capable of writing a full story. And so I came into the Blacklist very jaded, and the Johns kind of, you know, got me
Restore
to...
your faith?
Yeah, they restored my faith in TV writing, which as a writer myself, I needed. And because I have a lot of love for TV, I have a lot of love for that kind of storytelling. And I'd gotten to the point for probably a couple seasons where I had, since we've started this podcast, so over a year now, at least since the beginning of season 4, probably at least halfway through season 3, I really latched on to the writers in, I don't know if I put them on a pedestal or if there have just been so many changes recently. I don't know if this is accurate, but I think I heard that they lost 6 senior writers. Do you know?
No, I
Season
haven't.
5, the number I heard was 6, but that was from another fan, so I don't know if that's accurate. But that's what I heard. 6 senior writers. I do know there's been a big turnover with the 5th season. I think there were some budget cuts. And there's definitely, like, I've seen it. As much as I hated the fall finale, and you guys remember how depressed I was. I know that they said that they were going to put it a week later was the original plan. I said, oh, thank you for not doing that because my birthday was nearly ruined with it being a week out. I managed to kind of pull myself together within that week so that I could do Thanksgiving and birthday. That would have been the world's worst birthday present ever to get that the day before my birthday. But I hated that episode, but it wasn't a complaint necessarily with the writing. I disagree with the writing choices in Killing Tom, but the quality of the episode writing I had no argument with episode 509 or 508. I had a lot of issues with 509.
And let's start by the things we like, which are probably the reminiscence. So let's start by the reminiscence of the wake. You like the wake? So
I did. The wake was my scene. I enjoyed everybody coming together. I do wish they'd kind of gone to more things. It would have been nice. And they're limited by time. That's always part of the issue. Is that they can only do so much. It was a very brief flashback to that. But I did enjoy them. Cooper's story about Tom having Kara Kurt in the back of the trunk. I mean, it was such a fun scene back in season 3. And, Wrestler talking about, a near-death fight that he went at with Tom. I think that's where his opinion of the man started to change. We've talked about that. We've discussed how the Tesla bromance that never actually came fully around. But how that began to change back in season 3, and that respect started to grow between the two men. And you could see that. You could see that clip in the wake, and that was nice. It was nice to see that.
It was. Yeah, it was a very nice, cute scene where they were actually talking about the things that they like about Tom, that he was good in the field, that, he was charming about having Kara Kurt in the trunk, and, and it brought to mind all those great moments with them. So let's move on to the next one. How about Liz at Tom's grave? That scene to me was so sad, and to me was well done.
It was very well done. I've only watched the episode once, and so I didn't back it up or anything to listen to her again. I missed some of the things she said because she was kind of choking on her words, which, like I told the roomie when we were watching it, I said I have no idea what she just said, not because anybody was talking over it or anything, but because she was choking on it. I said, but honestly, that fits for the moment, so it's not like it fit well. And Megan was great. She did she brought her A game and then some, especially to that scene.
And here I have to mention a little thing about that. Did you notice the Keen Tom instead of Tom Keen? It's a way of doing tombstones. It's not very common. Usually you put Tom Keen instead of Keen Tom.
Well, no, not when you're married, because typically the spouse will be buried right next to you, and so that's the Keen plot. That's how my family does it anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's again, I know, but listen, King Tom, King Tom, and we're talking about Queen Elizabeth.
Oh.
King Tom, okay. Queen Elizabeth.
I haven't latched on to that one. It's possible.
Ready. I don't know what it's about, but all I can say is I noticed in that episode it was repeated mention of Queen Elizabeth. In that deleted scene with Sam, there was also Queen Elizabeth. So here we are. We have knights, we have queens, we have kings, King Tom, and a name that was chosen that actually sounds like king in a show that has a lot of chess references and chess boards and people playing chess. So.
Potentially. I personally just saw it. Like I said, where my family's, the majority of them are buried, like where my grandparents are buried and such, you have, the name written along the top and then you have written beneath. But, you have that underneath, and it's a double tombstone. And so typically
But that one
in
didn't
my
have room for another.
next to
It
it
only
probably.
had husband and father. It didn't have anything else.
Liz already has hers picked out because she has some other person buried there.
Well, they have so many they can choose.
And so, that kind of would have been funny. It wouldn't have been appropriate for the episode, but it kind of would have been funny if they had put his right next to her fake one. Um,
Mm,
I told a friend today.
what did that have been telling?
I said I either gotta laugh or cry at this point. I'm so angry and I'm so upset. I'm sticking in for it for several reasons. I want to know wrestler. I want to know the end all to the wrestler story arc that they've basically dropped. They're gonna come back to it, I know, but they've left out in the rain forever. And I want to see that they don't ruin Simone and Aram. And
You know they will. Anything that comes and
if
they
John
make
touches
nice.
it, then if John touches a relationship, it dies. He said something the other day about not knowing how to write relationships. I was like, apparently, you told us you were going to respect the Keene family. This is not how you respect a family unit, buddy.
Well, they did. They did for the
didn't.
genre.
This is
They
not
did
respecting a... No.
For the genre, you gotta get the genre in there. For the genre, they happen to have a family. They were loved. They experienced love. They had a child.
The mold. That is what they did with Tom. Hang on. That is what they did with Tom Keene. They created a spy that broke the mold. He was not just a spy. He was not just a field operative. He was a man that also learned to love, learned to have a family, learned all the new levels of love. His story created a new type of spy that had a bunch of people that normally wouldn't have been on board with the genre much more interested in him.
I know, but at the end, it's the genre, and I guess, let's say that Tom had not been taken and he had been grown up as Christopher, he would have ended up exactly where he ended up. A man able to have a family and a perfect spy. It's all I'm saying. That the show, it's I always keep saying, and I point out, and I feel I said it in my blog. I feel like we're having a picnic by a dam, and there is a little crack, and I keep pointing to the crack, and I'm like the kid, and all the adults are like having this fight about the mustard, and you were supposed to bring the mustard, and you're supposed to bring the hot dogs, and meanwhile I'm like the dam, and the water trickles them, and the hot dogs, and everybody's like shh, 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 the dam. That's exactly how I feel. I know it's a weird.
I'm not gonna say what went through my head. It's okay. Very, very dark thought went through my head.
Share, please.
Maybe it'll crack and it'll just wash us all away and we'll be okay. Told you it was dark.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Is I have no problem with the darkness. The route they
you just want light at the end.
I want the light at the end of the tunnel not to be the train about to hit us.
Well, I always say, that's a genre, and you can't see around me, but this is only part. Behind me, there is books and books, and this is only a small part because I got rid of all my collections several times in my life. So this is just the last collection, the last batch of them. And not to mention that when I lived in New York, there was a fantastic thing called the Mercantile Library that had a fantastic collection of mystery.
Is that where we needed to go? Because we went to the main library and we're kind of disappointed with the lack of books.
No, the Mercantile Library is a small collection, but it is fantastic for mystery and spy. And so when I lived in Manhattan, I used to have a membership there, and I think I must have consumed all of them. Because I used to go there and I think you could get only like 10, but they got to know me so well that I would take out 20 books and I would read basically a book a day or sometimes two. So I'm a very fast reader. The most important episode for me, the one that I keep pointing out, is is Dr. Linus Creel. And Creel had, it's just, the violence, your response to violence or love, it baked in. And it's the more you see of your parents, the more you understand yourself. And I think that the what we're seeing in the Blacklist is you can run, but you cannot run from yourself, because at the end it's own your own personality and your traits that you inherit, plus the things that you've done as an adult or as a child, that come and do what happened in your life. Like, Liz was able to talk Wrestler out of killing Jonica, and Tom was able to talk him out of killing Solomon. But nobody would have been able to talk Tom or Liz out of killing somebody they wanted to kill, or they felt they needed to kill.
Well, I think there's a difference in between Wrestler and Liz and Tom. Wrestler is someone on the gray scale. There is. He's on the much lighter end of the gray scale. It would have weighed much heavier on him. And the people that Liz and Tom kill, they feel, whether they should or not, that's completely off the radar here, but they feel like in that moment that they have to kill that person. Take the Harbor Master, for instance. That's a very controversial kill for Tom. But in that moment, to protect Liz, Tom felt like this guy had to die. Somebody had to kill him. Liz wasn't going to do it. Nobody else was going to do it. So he hopped up there and he broke the man's neck. Not because the guy was a bad person. He might have been. He might not have been. Nobody knows. That's it's what it is. But he felt like this guy was a threat to Liz. Ergo, he had to go.
Yeah. But my point was that there is something that is baked in who you are, and that it's the point of the show, and there is a reason why. I don't know about you were talking earlier about off the record about spy TV, but I know spy movies, and spies, by who they are, by the lives they live, and by who they have to be in order to survive, don't have happy endings. They never do.
Okay, here's where I come from on that. It's, for me, from the position that I come from, it is a TV versus movie situation. It's the amount of time that you have to get connected with this man or woman.
Mm-hmm.
In a movie. I've never seen Jason Bourne, but there's 4 movies? 4?
I don't know. I lost track of them.
There's 4 or 5 movies, something like that.
But James Bond is just as good, or any of the other.
Okay, I've seen all the James Bond movies, I believe. I'm a James Bond fan. I enjoy James Bond. But you basically, while there are things that connect and carry over movie to movie, you're basically looking at a 2-hour slot there.
Mm-hmm.
That you are connected to this person. You start off at the beginning, you meet him, he meets one of the chicks that he's about to, get involved with, and then he meets another chick that he's getting involved with, etc., etc. He goes on his thing, he fights the bad guy, loses something, wins something, and in the end he comes out, but he's lost all the emotional. The girl is typically dead by the end of it. Somehow,
or
bad, either bad, dead, or gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so she never lasts. Moneypenny is the only girl that lasts in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's 2.5 hours of your life. The Blacklist, I don't even know how many hours. I mean, I'm not a numbers person, but 5.5 seasons.
Well, we're gonna have 100 episodes soon, so
yeah. So
100 hours.
Yeah, about 100 hours. Plus, for those of us that are crazy like Tessa and I are, that have done so many rewatches that we might as well, know it by heart by this point. I mean, all of those hours that we've spent on this, and to be fair, you can do that with a movie as well, but all of those hours for 4.5 seasons. It's more. You have more time and more emotional investment in general. And I mean, I know that some people, there are going to be exceptions to this, but you're spending more hours with Elizabeth Keene, the build-up, and the emotional investment into her as a character, and into Reddington as a character. At this point, personally, And I am the type of writing that I do, the type of writing that I enjoy. And I'm a I'm a dystopian writer. I write some dark stuff, but there always has to be some glimmer of hope at the end. I see no point in an ending in which your two leads, both of them, are as dark or darker into the depths of horrible desperation as they started. And that's where we're heading. It feels fatalistic to me. It feels like you can't escape your genes. That, oh, well, she knows Reddington's her father now. She's gonna have to be a horrible person. Oops. And to be fair, the show's not done. And we won't know if that's where they're going until that final episode and they reveal everything. But right now, it feels incredibly fatalistic to me.
Well, I think that I hear your point, and I'm not sure that I can counteract your point in any way that would make sense to you, other than to say that I'm not sure that they ever told you this was going to be any different. I mean, you're going on a journey, and the thing is that everybody comes in, and I'm surprised because in most of this series, you more or less have an idea what the series is about. But I have never seen a show capable of generating the level of passion and the level of thorough. The range of things that people are seeing in this is like the virtual elephant that, you got a bunch of blind people describing.
Honestly, that's fandom. That is fandom in general. I know that you haven't been involved in many fandoms, but...
Oh my God, and could I have avoided this one?
I know, right? I some days I question my sanity and still being in it. I think I have friends in other fandoms continuously questioning my sanity and staying in it. I had someone yesterday. They found out that someone had sideswiped me on someone. No, on the attack on someone else. I got sideswiped on it, just because I'm a Geen Squared shipper and someone hates me because of it. Sorry for breathing your air, but I had a friend from another fandom go, "Who's being mean to you? I'll get them." I was like,
no,
I swear, you people wonder.
That was it.
I'll eat them. Yes.
Yeah, that was lovely, by the way.
That was hilarious.
No, but my point is that I you think it's fandom, but I am not.
It's fandom,
and maybe it is fandom because
it's this fandom. It's this fandom
I do
tends
have
to be that way.
I do have casual viewers, and all my casual viewers are completely on board with what it is. None of them have any doubts as to what they're seeing.
You do have to be. You do have to take into account, though, the casual viewers. You know the casual viewers. I know the casual viewers. Joe Schmo knows. They are going to more than likely be more in your corner, not because they're big fans like we are, but because they're obviously friends of yours for a reason. You're going to have at least similar, points of view.
Well, some of them are family or in-laws that have the only thing they have in common with me, that we have somebody in common with 4 degrees of separation. So, and it could be.
We do need to actually get back to the episode soon.
Yeah,
we've gone off on such a tangent, and that's a great deal my fault because I'm in full-blown rant mode, and so I can't.
My point with this is that for some people this is a procedural. And I think that for anybody who was under the impression that this was a procedural is by now furious. Like, why would we go back to Red and Liz catching blacklisters with the post office? Because it was never that. It only had an appearance of it until you realize in 122, if you hated Tom, you were not going to realize it by looking at his board, because you probably didn't even look at the scenes where he was in. But if you had looked at that, you had realized even before Liz realized it, that's what he was doing. Other people think that they watch it, like the shippers, they watch it for that romantic thing, and that and that was in the genre is one of those things that happen. I think this one actually got a lot of nice things for King too, and I'm always saying like that's going to be the only people who are going to end up happy because it's the canon. I never said we were always going to be happy, but happier than the rest because you got something. um so that is my thing. Let's go into the next thing that we like on the about the flashbacks, and let's get into the really meaty thing of the
Uh,
flashbacks.
oh, we didn't get into the rehab yet,
I
particular with
thought
it.
it was interesting because it gives us a very good timeline that probably by the time we reach the beginning of Ruin, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do think for all my complaints about them apparently not being able to keep time on this show sometimes, which I do have this complaint on this episode, that
There goes the
particular,
ice.
hmm,
There goes the ice.
I flash red. um, but I do have that that issue with this one. But that, as you just said, that was a very good way to keep time, and I think that's why I have so many complaints with the writing on this episode is because I expect better. I know the quality that these writers, the talent and the quality these writers can write at, and that tells me that they just didn't match to their potential, and that
Mm.
makes me very angry.
I,
And
I disagree, and we will go into that because that's going to be you're going to have a rant. I'm going to have a rant about the rants, and not necessarily only yours, but the rants in general and the thing. So, but
I,
let's move on to into the meaty stuff of Scotty, because a lot of people were like, "It's no way that Liz is going to get Scotty to take care of Agnes."
I
Give
wasn't
me your
sure.
thoughts.
I wasn't sure. I think I leaned more towards no. I can't remember for sure if I put enough thought into it to lean one way for sure or the other. I've been relatively careful not to make too many predictions recently because when I predict correctly, I'm all for predictions. When I get a huge blow to it, I get very uncertain about my predictions. And so that's just what I do, and I tend to kind of back off for a while. And that's where I'm at now. Is I obviously misread these writers to some degree. I don't know if I misread them, if they changed. I really don't know. I have no way of knowing. Um, it's easy. It's easy on the outside to say, "Oh, they changed their minds," but
Well,
we,
I do.
I don't know. I have no way to know that, and because I don't, I can't say that they have. And I have no. But besides the fact that they changed from what I,
Emotional reaction to
yeah,
it.
oh yeah, and that's the things. I am aware I'm having a very.
No, but what is your emotional
Oh,
reaction
what's my
to
to her sending her with Scotty?
yeah.
It's all right. I had more issue with the fact that they didn't set it up correctly than the fact that Agnes went with Scotty. I understood Liz's reasoning. I have no problem really with Liz's reasoning. I go back to the fact that I don't think that this family has been respected as the showrunner promised they would be, but whatever. It's his
I
story,
think
not
that
mine.
he meant I think he only meant that he was
He
not
doesn't
going to
understand
have
what he
Tom
meant.
leave or abandon them.
Um
But maybe it is that you have a different idea and he's going with a genre. What I think at the moment that he was doing it, it was like, oh, he's not going to. It was about when redemption happened. It was going to be like, okay, we're not going to send Tom and abandon Liz.
I
I think
will.
that's what he meant. And he never did. Tom never abandoned Liz. He went on a journey like Liz did, Liz took cases. But in this and that's what I always took it to mean. I never took it as it's a promise that he's not gonna die or they're gonna be because I honestly Katerina Tom has always been a parallel to Katerina and Katerina is presumed dead, so there goes. I was always kind of oh I think that eventually they might go there, might not, they might not, they did.
Anyway, but no, I don't have a, like, I understand that they just want her off the show. I get it. kids are hard to cast, kids are hard to keep on set, kids are expensive to keep on set. I get that. They don't have a place for it. That's fine. They need her off. Scotty makes more sense than Red. My biggest issue with it is that it would have taken a throwaway line or two during the front half of this season for Tom to say, yeah, I gotta fly up to New York to testify against Howard. I mean, it's brief, instantaneous. Well, I mean, so quick. But they chose not to. Okay. They knew this was happening. They knew this was happening the entire season, and they chose not to.
Okay.
You wanted me to rant.
I know. I
know, but you wanted me to rant. You can't stop me mid stride. When I get started, I'm going. I'm just.
Yeah, this podcast it was very short, at 5.5 hours.
I'm just saying. You asked me a question. Let me answer.
All right, keep answering.
No, I'm good now. Go. I've lost my rant. Go.
This is.
God, alcohol. You okay?
We just.
By the way, I warned her before this. If I sound angry at her, I'm not angry at Tessa. I'm just really pissed at the writers right now.
I'm just glad that it's just a screen between us.
I love Tessa dearly. I'm not angry at
her. Yeah. Let's see what she says at the end of this episode. Because.
Don't judge me for my views. I won't judge you for your views. That's where we stand.
Good.
Long
so
two ways.
This is what I gotta say. If you remember at the beginning of the season when they was asked whether Scotty would be back or Howard would be back, Buckingham said no, she won't be back. We don't have any plans, and I think that at that point. That this is where writing for TV instead of a movie is different, because you never know what's going to happen. And at the point where you're starting the series and you're starting to write the episodes, you may not know who's going to be available or not. And for example, I knew that Terry was pretty much gone from the show because he's working on another show. And I think he's one of the main characters. So that was pretty much, a no-go. So I had a feeling that Howard was going to fade into the background, into something that we would not know. But then he said that Scotty's not going to come back. Then, bam, Scotty's there. So I think what happened is it was a target of opportunity that she was able to do. I don't know if she will be a recurring character from on. I have a feeling she won't. She would just take Agnes and go. And that presented a way of wrapping up redemption that they didn't know that they were going to do this way. That's what I think it happened. But let me finish. Bite that thought. And that they, at that moment, they couldn't have done it in 5 for 1 or 5 for 2 because they didn't know if this is the way they were going to go. I think that they had to get away to get Agnes off the show, not for the reasons that you think, not because it's tough to deal with, it's expensive because you need twins or triplets to play the role, and you're so limited as to the hours and the conditions of the hours it can sign, all that. It is because you have to do the parallel to Liz going away from her parents and Tom being kidnapped. You had to go there.
And Megan did say something about that. And I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not angry at Liz for sending Agnes away. The reason she gave was very legitimate. I think that's the reason I believe Blacklister actually made the comment on there, and I agree with her on that, is that Scotty, Tom was not widely known as Christopher Hargrave. Ergo, Scotty was a very good choice in that nobody's going to look for Agnes with Scotty. And people could be, because Liz doesn't know at this point why these people came after Tom. She has no idea why they were after him. They obviously
she knows that they're related to Red.
No, she doesn't know that yet.
Yes, she does. Because the guy said in her hearing, call Reddington, and Tom said no.
If she remembers that, because head injuries, you can have blank spots. I don't know if
But
she
she's
remembers that.
remembering things.
Yeah,
She's remembering, I
I
saw them. I don't know what it was about. So, but she had an idea. And to me, it made perfect sense. You're
yeah.
accomplishing two things. You're getting yourself a logistical nightmare from having a child in the show. However, I love the idea that she had a child because it had to happen. We're basically exploring Red's circumstances through Liz. And in order to do that, first, Agnes had to be in some sort of danger. Liz had to feel unable to be a parent, and that getting her away with somebody who was unrelated was a better choice than to keep her with her. And I think what we're going to see is that the fight is going to be, will Liz ever feel that she can go back and be a parent? And I think, that scene that I mentioned probably about 3 times in every podcast, the deleted scene between Tom and Red. Yeah,
I swear that
there
gets
was a
mentioned as much as us fawning over Eddie Gathegi. So
yeah. And we will today, because I have other parallels there. There is and that's a very important thing to understand, is we are not seeing Liz's story. They're not using Liz to see whether we can get our journey. Her journey has to go through the journey that Ren went in order to see whether at the end of that journey she will make a better choice than Red or not. And the point of that journey is that at the end of everything, Red abandoned her. Red, because he was hell-bent on revenge, felt unable to be a parent. That's what Cape May is about, is him reckoning. I keep telling people, the man that he wanted to kill and just felt deserved to die but didn't kill is not Tom. It's himself. It's the father, but the father wouldn't allow the criminal to die. He was talking about himself. He felt that he was unworthy of being a father, yet he couldn't abandon his child. So what he did was to leave her with Sam, because he went in that revenge. And I knew that they have to put Liz in exactly the same circumstances. So to me, Scotty was a perfect idea, but I understand that they may not have known if she was going to be available. Therefore, they couldn't have dropped the hints that would have made sense. And I think that, considering that, I think they did pretty good.
I will say, I understand what you're saying on that. I get that. But I will also say, these people get paid to make it make sense. It is their job to make this make sense. They did not do that with this scene. Which, and I understand, I am personally offended with this because I very much enjoyed Redemption. I understand this is partially a very emotional reaction. It's also a writing reaction. And sometimes I feel like they just fall short in tremendous ways on television. And one of my favorite actors the other day, I was reading something he wrote about, someone had called, and this has nothing to do with Blacklist, it's a different actor on a different show. But he said, guys, stop taking this so seriously about, if they're not plot holes, but inconsistencies. But in a show like Blacklist, where so many things are connected and you have to figure out if it's a puzzle piece or if it's not, I just don't feel like they have room for sloppy writing. And this episode had so much.
Why do you feel it's sloppy writing?
Did you see that scene? That scene was horribly sloppy. Coming in, even if you look, and I saw something that you posted today on Tumblr with a timeline. Even if you assume that it's overlapped, that Redemption and the show is overlapped, and that
yes, they did,
and I understand that, and I agree with that. But even if you look at that, they made the comment at the end of Redemption that Scotty, if she fought with her lawyers because she had halcyon lawyers to back her, it was going to take months, maybe even years, to figure this thing out and get it all untangled.
Okay.
Howard would have fought this tooth and nail. Scotty had enough dirt on her that she actually did, that it would have come up just to have her, oh, look, she's free. And, oh my gosh, apparently they had time for son and mother therapy somewhere in there, and Tom loved her so much, even though she had Solomon beat the hell out of him and nearly kill his wife. He wanted to love her, but there were so many issues in there to have that. They could have done the exact same scene without some of the wording, and it would have worked so much better. They could have reworked it. Even not knowing Famke could have gotten there, they could have reworked that. They are paid to make this work. It did not work.
Okay, can I say now something? Okay, a lot of the anger is, I think that is it, and I feel personally responsible because I had a timeline, and I think that a lot of people saw it and kind of thought that was it, in which basically the end of Whitehall and the end of Kate Kaplan
doesn't matter.
Started. Oh, no, it does. Hold on. There is dialogue there that nobody's paying attention to. That we see that Tom is getting ready to come back, right? And Kat stumbles, covered in blood. And of course, then we see him picking up the suitcase, and he's perfectly fine. That should have been one clue to me, and bad me. That's my bad. I didn't think it through. And when we saw those lines in 502, it should have been a giant, ginormous clue.
Maybe, but to be fair, in multiple times through this show, they've had cuts and bruises for 2 episodes, and then the next episode, it takes place just days later, and they're completely gone. It has to do with special effects department.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm going to.
They always had issues with that.
But that was my first clue. And in the Blacklist, it's very rare that you only find one thing pointing to something, to a clue. Then we had some bizarre lines. Liz tells Tom. She says something to the effect, "You're back. You're really there. I have so many questions for you, like where you've been." That was the giant neon sign that I missed, and it was right there in front of me. And that this is not the first time it has happened that I have gone to go back and look, and it's like, oh, there it is. There it is, and I didn't see it because it is. That was the giant thing. So this is not a trial. Hold on. This is not a trial. This is not regular stuff. Between the time that Tom, think about it, nobody knew he was Christopher Hargrave. He's buried as Tom Keene. So this never came out in the open. This is not a trial with the stuff and the lawyers. This is something that happened very undercover, very under, in hearings, and it got pushed under the carpet that Liz didn't know what Tom was doing. It was super secret, because think about it. You're talking about a giant insecurity in national security that is somewhat compromised. So I have a feeling that all of this got under the carpet, got fixed, and Tom was doing something that was so secret that he couldn't talk to anybody about it while he was testifying and arranging. So that was a giant sign. And sometimes in the Blacklist, you have to go back, and there is this obscure line that one should put and it happened to me on so many times I lost track of them. How many times you go back and you find that the M line has been there all the time and you just didn't see it. So I'm going to say there, I think that there is a period of time, and obviously they found and I agree about maybe they should have been like, it was so great that we finally just add a couple more lines in there saying, well, it was great that we came together and all that. And I think that, did Tom forget that he beat her up? Well, you know what? Tom was lying to Liz, and Liz put him in a boat after shooting him 3 or 4 times in the stomach and torture him for information. Honestly, the guy is used to it. It's like, okay, well, I lied to my mom. She's gonna have me beaten up with some hard balls. She's not gonna get her hands dirty. She's gonna have the boy do it. It's like what they do. Okay, hey, one of you boys, beat him up. That is what the women in his life do. Liz did it herself, but Scotty had it done. Hey, Solomon was pretty good, and Solomon, think about it. He fired gunshots into Solomon at close range in his stomach, and then they're like working together. Solomon shut up his wedding. Well, he was paid to do that. It's his job. And then they're working together. It's in that genre. That kind of thing is like, well, I guess you just like slap me a couple of times on my wedding. That would be for the normal person, or I don't know. My mom was like really nasty to me on that dinner. For them is, hey, Solomon beat me up with some balls. I get it. And if my theory is correct, and Liz and Scotty are somehow related, I think it goes in the family, and the men in the family are like, whatever, there she goes. I guess I got up well. It was only 4 months in the boat instead of God knows what.
Yeah, you're not going to convince me that writing was anything but subpar.
Okay, I will give you that scene. That could have been done.
No, that is my big one. Is that scene? That's where I say the writing really hit rock bottom in this episode.
But I get, but for me it was like, okay, I get what they're trying to say, and Tom
but
did
they failed. They were trying to say something, but they failed, and that's my issue.
I took it and I got it, because we also have to see that Tom was really beaten up about the whole thing, and he did see how much Scotty loved him, and
it needed more.
For
the lines that were written, it needed backup. It was lazy writing. It was trying to convey something they weren't taking the time to convey. They didn't have the time. They should have taken a different path. I understand time limits. I understand they're at the end of their run. I get that. I understand they probably don't have more than a season more past this one at the very most. I completely get that. But they should take the time to look at the lines and to write the lines that are needed. They have the talent. I have a very high bar for this team because I know what they're capable of, and that is what gets me. Moving on, I could talk about this all night. I've been talking about it for the last 2 days.
And I want to say that there are two things that needed wrap up, and one of them was accomplished. Whatever you want to say, call it a subpar, whatever. But I wasn't expecting the wrap up of Alcyon and Redemption to be more than a few lines. It's all that we were promised. We were going to at least know what happened. And I think that the rest of the mystery surrounding Tom, who took him, what's a real deal with Scotty, I think that's going to come back. No, that's going to come back. I pretty much...
They will drop that. Unless Tom's alive, unless they fake Tom's death, they're going to drop that like a bag of rocks.
Trust me on that. That is going to come back, because remember that Dembe said that Tom is lying, that Red is lying to Tom. Not just to Liz, but to Tom. So Tom is tied to the mystery. There is a lot more, and that would have been a lot more with Tom dead in season 1 or in season 3 or in season 4.
It didn't
matter.
I will go back to the same thing that the entire, maybe not the entire fandom, but the majority of the fandom, the ones that I speak to at least, the ones that I heard from, and then some, said back when they faked Liz's death. One of the big reasons that the majority of us did not believe she was actually dead was because the secret of who Red was to her didn't matter if she was dead. With Tom dead, his secrets don't matter. His fans... We're done. I mean, we're not nearly as invested as we were in it.
And I get that, but I don't think so, because I have clues that tell me that Tom and some of the mysteries are involved in the series. And I that I'm, as opposed to most fans that come from an emotional, as opposed to the fans that are invested emotionally, I'm not really invested that emotionally, like a character, but overall what I'm here is for the puzzle. And I can tell you the puzzle is there, and every episode that has happened for the last, I would say probably 10 episodes that we've had from last season and this season, every single one of them is telling me that the way I'm reading it is correct, because the pieces are falling where I expect them to fall.
Well, pieces fell where I thought they were going to, right up until the fall finale of season 5.
but I have no emotional involvement.
Well,
We'll see.
even with my emotional investment, I was right up
Yeah.
until season 5. So I'm just saying,
Well,
it can change on a dime. You're right until you're wrong.
yeah. We'll
And
see.
so, all right,
So,
Liz and Red. Let's move to Liz and Red.
I found that their scenes, Red was unusually cold in a way. I think he was deadly worried about her. I think that there is reasons for him to be so worried. First, he's seeing everything that he had worked to avoid. It's happening right there, and he had a part in it. And the second thing is, I think that there's a little concern that Liz is going to find out about his involvement. And I know that there was something saying, well, he was okay, he gave warnings to Tone. That to me is BS. He,
He may be
he
okay with himself, but that doesn't mean Liz won't hold him accountable. Just because he
yeah,
doesn't hold himself accountable doesn't mean she won't. And I'm sorry, but she stabbed a pin in his neck when she thought he was involved with the Zamani stabbing, which he was, by the way.
yeah.
But he knows what she's capable of when she's in defense of her husband. Even if he's gone, she's still in defense of her husband.
Yeah, well, and you're getting to some really interesting things. So that's all I gotta say. It was odd, and they had a very moving moment when he came to her, and his voice was cracking like, "Look for the light," because this is a theme that we have seen with Wrestler, we have seen with Liz and the Hideous Fish, and all the stories that it just keeps coming back up and up all the time. And I always tell people, remember the pictures in season 3 where that were before the pregnancy happened, and Tom was the only one in the light.
Um, I am not going to be a supporter of Red moving forward. I came very close to losing it with Kate, and at this point I'm done with Red. I love Spader. Spader will continue to do his best, and I know he will. But I have no. I'm just Red lost me the moment he couldn't defend what was so important about that damn suitcase. That is where he lost me.
Mm.
Is when he said, when Dembe asked him, why can't you tell her the truth? And he said, I don't know. And
Well, we know
what
that the reasons then are not real, are not that they're not real. It's not about an event or something. It's about his own fear, his own
and I agree with that. But the fact
fear,
that
or
I mean, that was very specifically put in. That was
yes.
intentional writing there. And the fact that they did that made it seem pointless. Whether that was their intention or not, I don't know. But to me, I'm not the only one this came across this way too. That it felt pointless.
It's not pointless. Is and I know what you're saying, and I know where you're going with this. I think that, okay, let me see if I can make this logical. This series, it's finding out who Red is, and we are using Liz to find out who Red is. And the thing that we started is we started with Red as a semi-god, and we're starting to peel the layers. And if you remember the photo at the season 4, it was the mask is starting to peel off, and you can see the real man behind it. And the real man behind it is a man who's has is incredibly intelligent, but he creates what he fears, like everybody else. And everything that has happened, Red has created. And that's what I keep telling people. You have to look at one giant clue that everybody's ignoring about um, um, about 508, which is that is how Berlin found Liz, through his weakness. That's what they were telling us, and we couldn't see what he was saying. He said, I follow you. You were like a ghost, and I follow you to nothing until I found you one day, made a connection through your weakness. And that is the Blacklist. It's a story about a man who creates what he fears.
Oh no, I will never disagree with you that Red, just as you said, creates what he fears. I think he's his own worst enemy. And for
Yes.
the longest time, I was with him. I wanted him to overcome that. I wanted him to conquer that. I don't care anymore. I know that sounds terrible. And I am the redemption arc queen. I no longer am invested in Reddington's redemption arc, and I never thought I would see the day.
He's not going to have a redemption arc. His only redemption arc possible left at this moment is if one day he just sacrifices himself. That's, and that was so obvious when he says to Liz, you left Agnes with Scotty Hargrave, but she shot your wedding, which everybody says. And I'm saying, you don't understand that he shot your wedding because you got in Liz's life. That's how you created that happened. But Red cannot forgive and forget, or forget about forgetting.
And he can't even forgive himself. He can't forgive others. He can't forgive himself. He is just incapable.
And you know exactly, if you really look at his character, you know exactly what's happened to Katerina. He is unable to forgive her. He's unable to speak with her because he can't believe what she says. Therefore, all of this is one man who's in a fit because he got really hurt because he cannot forget and he cannot forgive the woman he loves because he cannot believe the woman he loves. The Blacklist has always been this. This is a giant misunderstanding of proportions enormous because of the characters involved in it. And the one thing that Liz is different than Red, to a point, because part of the reasons that she left Agnes with Scotty, part of it is because Scotty, as Christopher Hargrave, is not an identity known for Tom, so she's safer there. The second thing is because she told Red a couple times that she was abandoned by him. And she's not going to forget that. She may have forgiven him and welcomed him back into her life, but she's not forgiving him.
And she did make the comment she made sure with Scotty that Scotty was going to take care of her and was going to love her as her own. That was a very definite thing there. Anyway, okay, so moving on to our last point, which is the big point. So I have this titled in my notes as Home Alone in Alaska, the Murder Edition. Because that is what it was. Like, if this was just, like, a horror movie or a slasher fic in which some lady was in Alaska and these guys broke into her place and tried to convince her, that they were cool and ended up wanting to kill her, I would have been all for everything Liz did. Like, I mean, I cheered for her on this, because I was really impressed with some of the ideas they came up with. The, crushing up the ice and putting it in crushing up the glass and putting it in the ice, that was kind of a genius. I'm not gonna lie. On instinct, I cheered when she, put the lighter down and torched the guy. There was a lot of, basically blowing people up and, lighting them on fire in this. Someone's got a pyro incident there. But regardless, I feel like, considering Tom made a big point in 5A of saying you're a good person, you're not Reddington, you're a good person.
Yeah,
I feel like he's twitching in his grave a little bit right now. I don't disagree with her killing them. And I also understand at the end of it, I understood that basically she needed to be a ghost and leave. And so she couldn't leave any survivors. I get that. I had a lot of mixed emotions on how she responded to it. Okay. I felt like from Liz's point, I didn't have a problem with it. From the entire setup, I had a lot of problems with it. She's out in the middle of, absolute nowhere Alaska, where nobody knows.
Bad things happened.
Yeah, and
bad things.
Blacklister 214 made an excellent comment, and for those, I doubt there's much overlay, and they're funny. I know several people that do, but for anybody that watches Dirk Gently, where everything is connected, she made that pop off in Tumblr that this is not Dirk Gently. Everything is not connected because the investigator in Dirk Gently basically just follows things around. The universe directs him. That is not what this show is. It is not magical. It is not supernatural. Things don't just happen because she happens to be Raymond Reddington's daughter, so obviously danger finds her. it's, I mean, to a degree, bad things are going to happen because she's the lead star. Things are going to happen. But to be out in the middle of nowhere and have these guys that aren't even looking for her. I was joking with the roomie earlier. I said, one of the funniest moments to me in this entire thing that was not at all supposed to be funny was when she's on the walkie-talkie with this dude. And she says, something to the extent of, you were right. You don't know who I am. I'm not Grace. I'm Elizabeth. And he gave this little gasp, like somehow it was some horrible thing that she had lied about her name. These are mafia guys.
I think that it was because he was starting to get the ice
Maybe.
more in his
Well,
lungs.
No, that's not the impression I got with the gasp. It was this, oh my god.
But you didn't like the episode. You're looking for things to hate. Yes, you are. Look.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you hate the episode because you want to, or do you just hate it because it was crap?
Okay, I give you that. You hated it, and nothing is going to, you're not going to like it. I'm liking it because I'm seeing it from a very different perspective. And my perspective is in 2 pages of parallels, that this was another parallel fest. This was referenced when this was on the run. You cross into my world, and now bad things are going to find you. So here we have 2 seasons later, there she is minding her own business. I bet Red was minding his own business too. And bad things happen to him. Bad things happen when you're hiding. It's an energy thing. It's something that happens. Or possibly because if had not she been who she was, she would have been another lady killed in the woods by some person that nobody would have known who she was. That's it. It would have been as simple as that. I had no problem with that. That's no more contrived to me than the stew maker or it's just no problem whatsoever.
I just didn't see the point in it. If there had been something in mythology that had tied to it, if it had been someone that was, that had been after Tom, came after her.
What you're seeing Red's story play through Liz. You have exactly the same circumstances. She lives Agnes because she's afraid somebody's coming after her. She spent 10 months in a coma. If you think about it, Red came out of that fire with those horrendous scars. The problem is, and I realize that this is where I'm like getting to like points. It's like, why you don't see it? Because you don't see it like I see it. The Blacklist is a house of mirrors, and nothing in the Blacklist is going to make sense until you turn that one little mirror, and then you get to make sense of this much, and then you're going to see another thing, and nothing is going to make any sense until you turn another little mirror. And once you start turning the mirrors, it's like you see another reality that is in front of you. And a lot of the problem that I see that people are having with this, it's timeline. A lot of people don't realize that what we're seeing here with Liz and the 10 months in a coma, with Tom killed, with the bad people that found, it's all because they don't see it, because they haven't turned the mirror of the Christmas, of the fire and Red's disappearance. While you think that the Red disappearance is not tied to the fire because it happened, the fire was in 1989 and Katerina disappeared in the first months of 1990 and Red disappeared in December of 1990, none of this is going to make any sense. You haven't turned the mirror. Turn the mirror and realize that Red disappearance in the fire, it's the same event. It is Russian Orthodox Christmas. And once you realize that he disappeared the night of the fire, that he didn't disappear, he was presumed dead. And even if you don't subscribe to my theory, his wife thought he was dead. He didn't show up. But it's not December. And coming out of that fire, he must have been unconscious or in a burn unit or almost dead for months until he recovered. When he came out of that, Katerina walked into the ocean. She was gone. He couldn't find her. and he went in a revenge mission. But first, he went to heal, and something horrible happened. Just like to Liz, something he wasn't looking for. He was producing a play with Goethe in 1991, Cats, and something happened that in 1992 he's trying to be the criminal everybody think he is, and he's trying to survive in that dark world. But he didn't start in that dark world. He was producing plays, and something happened that we haven't learned yet, and we're learning through it. So turn that mirror and you see what you're seeing. It was something that had nothing to do with who he was, but he survived it because he was Raymond Reddington. Liz survived it because she is who she is. And she's worse than Red. She was having fun killing these guys. She's Katerina's daughter. She's Red's daughter. She's worse than both of them together. So that's the point where I'm seeing like people are getting all upset because they haven't turned it. You have to find it, and that when you start seeing the parallels, yeah, that's what that Agnes had to go. That's what eventually she's going to find. She's going to go in this dark mission. She's going to start already using her FBI, her roots as an investigator, in order to cover her own crimes. She was able to clean that crime scene. She was able to completely elude. You see, there was FBI investigating her. They're never going to find her because she can predict what they're going to do. So turn that mirror, and then you're going to end up turning another mirror, and it's going to make perfect sense. So that's my rant.
Like I said, I mean, at the end of the season, I may have a very, very different look. I mean, I would love to hope. And I came into the back half of the season hoping, beyond hope, that they were going to prove me entirely wrong. All the fear... You heard me over the course of the winter hiatus. I was flopping back and forth like crazy from, oh, he's back. Or like, he is going to come back. He is alive, and they have faked his death, and I am certain of it, too. Bloody hell, I'm never coming back to this show. I mean, Tessa spent the entire winter hiatus, I think, wondering, when is Jen going to just leave? And it got close a couple of times. But, and I'm at least giving it to the end of the season, because I have had many a time that these writers I have misjudged them, and I've gone, you guys suck, and they've proven me wrong. Please, guys, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong.
For example, I mean, look at the fact that the dog is called Kate, and what was Kate the dog able to do? Just bark and tell Liz that something was wrong. That was all she was able to do, and then she got killed. What was the other Kate able to do? Exactly the same. Did you notice too that Liz is also like going on a hyper? Like Red and Tom both kill people with knives. Oh, Liz had to use a hatchet. Yep, she's going with an axe, people. Okay, she's not going to do a little knife.
I have to comment, because the roomie and I both got such a kick out of the absurdity in it. That last guy that kept swallowing the glass the whole time. Obviously, that's not going to kill him very quickly. But I mean, the man, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I've only done one watch through. So he swallowed glass the entire time. He got a hatchet to the gut.
No, that was other.
No, didn't he? He got a hatchet to the gut, though. The other guy got to the chest. I think he got one to the gut. He got stuck with something. Because he was holding his stomach at one point. I'm pretty sure he got stuck with got hit with the hatchet. Majorly injured, got hit in the face with chemicals.
I think there was a glass that he kept swallowing.
He got hit with something because she had to get away from him. And then she thought he was dead, went into the building. He came after her again, after everybody else is dead. At this point, the roomie
doused him with gasoline.
The roomie goes, "Oh my gosh, zombie!" So by this point, we were just cackling that this guy cannot die. And so he comes in.
As soon as she doused him, I knew exactly what she was going to do.
Oh, and I'm just like, someone's got a pyro issue in this team here.
Well, there were tie-ins to the fire, to the night of the fire.
Yeah, I guess
and
at
also,
least we know Liz isn't afraid of fire. She's using it. Whatever.
I mean, it was great. I love, but it's funny because it, Red threatened a guy to light the guy on fire, right? Remember in season one, he was interrogating with the vodka, and then put the cigar in his mouth, and then he says, "Oh, the suspense is
Oh,
killing me."
yeah, that guy.
Liz actually does it. Roast two of them.
I would have been better if she. Well, I guess she did do it with a lighter. So okay, fair.
Yeah, it was
It would have
perfect.
been better if they'd had a cigar, but hey, you do what you can with what you got.
You know, your parallels cannot be perfect. Red almost administers a lethal dose of something to a guy. Liz actually does it. So it's like she's damaged now. When Tom died, she became a damaged person, and now she's a damaged person who survived. So she knows that she can survive no matter what, and she's getting a lot of pleasure in killing it. She's pretty good at it, and like Ren may have some misgivings about killing. I don't think Katarina did. Katarina was like, "Oh, you killed the guy? Oh no, oh, you exsanguinated? Ah, perfect. Okay, good. Next one, I'll try to make it a little less messy for you, Kate." So it was, to me, it was like she's like super bad.
We'll see. We'll see where the show goes.
I noticed that the dog had the throat slit, like Mira, and
Honestly,
the dog.
I was trying not to look at the dead dog because thankfully I had warning on it. And so that's. When you kill a dog, you're making a point in a TV show because that always hits the audience
That's
really
a bad
hard.
person.
Yeah, I mean
Really
that's
bad.
everybody freaks out when there's a dead dog, and so I had a friend that made a comment about not getting attached to the dog that watched it live. I was like, bloody hell, what are we doing here? And I warned the roomie because the roomie's like me. I mean, like just very squeamish over dead animals, and so I said, beware, the dog may not survive this.
Did you have a feeling that the guy in the store that said Liz was a ghost is Red's guy?
No,
I had a feeling for it.
no,
He was wearing plaid.
I didn't notice. But to be fair, I don't notice most of the plaid that you notice.
Yeah, the guy was wearing plaid, and he was describing Liz as a ghost. The way Katerina has been described,
Mm,
Vanessa has been described, Red, Berlin has been described as a ghost, Leonard Cole has been described as a ghost. I mean, it was just, did you notice the black beanie badass thing? It's like Liz was channeling Red when he was going on the
mm,
rampage with a
true.
black beanie.
She's done the beanie before though. When she was out in the woods the time before with the cult, she was in a black
Hmm.
beanie.
Hmm. The cabins. There is something in the
It was the
show about
same
cabins.
cabin. We got such a kick out of that it was the exact same cabin they've used for everything, for Karakurt, for when Red kidnapped her last season. It's the same freaking cabin. Someone must own it on the team. Like that's the only
Or
explanation.
somebody. Well, they film it differently, but it was awesome
Oh
the
no,
way.
they do. They try to turn the camera so that it looks a little bit different. But that fireplace, it's hard to. I mean, it's a very unique looking fireplace. It's hard to hide that. It's the same cabin. They've at least Karakurt and when Red kidnapped Liz, at least we've had other cabins.
Well,
But those are definitely the same.
the interesting thing for me with those cabins is like you have now Dom living in a cabin like that in the woods, also probably not connecting with anybody. Nobody knows his name. He probably pays cash for everything. He also has a little outbuilding where little secrets are kept under the ground. And Emma is also in a cabin. Red took Carla to a cabin. The Stumaker had a cabin, the cabin where Red lose Kate is like, and the hunter guy. You got there's that theme of being hurt like a hunted animal and going to a cabin. Then we have. Did you notice that Liz had a record playing? So that is now officially she's now into, because music and record playing is a symbol for grief. So now she's a grieving person. She had a record playing like, huh?
What?
Haven't Don't you notice that everybody who had a record is somebody who's hurt or mourning? Dom had a piano.
No.
Is a record player or a piano? It's a symbol. It's oh my God, it's so there.
Okay, so what is it when they were murdering Tom and they had the record player going?
Thank you.
That's not mourning. That was just death.
Well, it's a symbol of loss.
Okay. All right.
That,
Add
you
it
know,
into your music symbols. I wouldn't have caught it.
Look back and see every character who had been especially associated with pianos or record playing. You got the crazy guy in the woods. You have Dom had a piano. You had Scotty had a piano. Is like very prominent when we meet her first. It's a symbol of grief. Music is a symbol of grief. And interestingly enough, the stew maker had that, so that's what I think that story about the farmer, that was the stew maker. That wasn't Red. That's a stew maker. So that's why he had that cabin and something horrible happened, and that's that grief in the cabin that goes like together. Did you notice like the Liz eating at the cabin didn't like got you like a Kate thing?
Yes.
Eating in that cabin?
I do definitely agree with that. Is that entire scene reminded me of Cade in the cabin with the trapper? Is that what they called him?
Hunter. Yeah.
Hunter.
He was called Hunter in the.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly what they called him.
Did you notice she was holding the gun just like Red and Tom sitting with a gun in the thigh? That's a symbol, one of those things that Red and Tom share, that they sit with a gun in the exact same position, and now Liz was doing it. So now Liz is like stepping fully into the Tom and Liz place. I have a whole list of them. Did you notice a sled with Kate and the hunter when she was dragging the guy in a sled like a hunter was sliding Kate?
That was a sled, wasn't it? No, I didn't notice that, but you're right.
Then you know that she was sitting by the bed just like Lulu was sitting by Red when he was poisoned?
I wouldn't have drawn that just because, the guy was dying and she was sitting next to the bed. I mean, I wouldn't have drawn that, but maybe.
Lulu had Red was dying, and there's somebody completely there that is kind of not too sure about who you are and a little uncertain, sitting by a gun with a guy like Lulu was. She had got Red's gun in there, and I thought it was a nice thing. Did you also notice that when Agnes is playing on the floor, there is a deleted scene with Kate when she goes back to Sam and she wants to see Liz, and Liz is seen on the background playing, like paying no attention to them?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of a kid thing, but yeah, I can see it.
This is like saving somebody in witness protection, like when Red was trying to save Kate's sister. So this is tying a lot to Kate. You got the dog named Kate. You got the witness protection, like Kate's sister was. Liz described as a ghost is going back to Katerina Rostova, to all these people that are described a ghost, and hitchhiking. When she's hitchhiking like Kate and trying to get a lift. It was just like Kate. Walking through the woods and nobody stopped. They stopped for Kate, but they didn't stop for Liz.
Yeah, well, apparently she got back to DC all right.
Yep, apparently walking. There's a lot of plaid. There's the guy saying at the store there was plaid. There was plaid on the blanket she used to cover the hurt man. Did you notice that she only could hear the Russians in the radio? I thought it was a great way of introducing the Russian theme.
I didn't think about it at the time, but yeah, you're right. They were only Russians.
They were just the Russians on the radio. That's all she could hear. She could only hear her background. She could only really hear who she really is. The mirrors. Did you notice the mirror in the cabin? There was a mirror, and they kept putting in there, and it was great. The fire, the way she kills with water, the child in danger, Agnes is sent there. It was, I honestly thought it was a fantastic episode in terms of the parallels and the symbols. They talk about Christmas gifts, so that's bringing another one of the Russian themes, because Saint Nicholas is the patron saint of Russia. And she dropped the witness protection guy like she dropped the cop in Ellie Matchett at the hospital and saved his life. And I bet that they are starting. They're starting to go into, like, Liz can predict the FBI because she knows what they are, so exactly what Reddy's doing. And the reasons why I always said that's why they had Wrestler in the Reddington task force, because he was predictable. Reddington would never have been caught by Wrestler, but they took Gail out of the task force because Gail would have, he could get into Red's mind. So he had to get out. So I think what Garvey had on Red again is that Red is actually protected by the FBI in more ways than one.
How would that be seen in a pile of bones, human remains? Who do you think it is?
Because I think that the person who's in there, who is Katerina's third target, was actually an FBI guy. Or if it's not FBI, is Navy or intelligence. Somebody that would expose that Red is actually being protected. Because he wants to control Red's power, and Red's power actually coming from being a criminal. If he's not a criminal, which is the same theme that was in 311, he had to protect his reputation.
And that might be fair for Garvey's point of view, but it doesn't. To be fair, Red doesn't know why he's hiding it from Liz. He's hidden so much from Liz at this point. He's just hiding everything.
Because I think that what he's hiding is that this man left her to die, and this man was the father that she actually grew up with, and that was so horrendous for her that he just started lying, and now he can't stop.
I think if that were the case, it would have been a different line with Dembe.
Why? He doesn't know why he's doing it. He started it. He can't stop.
Maybe. Like, that I agree with. That he started and he can't stop. But if it were to... The original point were to protect Liz, I think that it would have been worded differently with Dembe. Because I think that he would know. That he would hold on to like a lifeline. Because that is the original goal. That was what he started with, was to protect Liz. And so if that protected her in any way, emotionally, physically, psychologically, anything, he would hold on to that and say, it protects Elizabeth.
Hold on. Look now at Liz. Would you say that Liz's motivation in getting in avenging Tom's death is actually keeping Agnes safe? Or would you say that is actually just coming from a place that is what she wants, what she needs?
It depends. If the people would legit come after Agnes, yeah, it might keep her safe. I think that the driving need for it is Liz.
Yes, there you go. So that's why Red cannot properly say that he was protecting Liz, because the moment that he killed that guy and left him to rot, and after Liz married Tom, went and got the bones and buried them in that suitcase, or allowed Kate to bury them in that suitcase, in the farm when they had a nice moment, I think at that moment it wasn't about protecting Liz. He just couldn't stop. Because I think underneath it all there is shame that it was exciting. Look at the way Katerina describes the affair with Red. Exciting, frivolous. They were actually having a great time playing this game they were playing. And in that game was Liz involved, Liz going from one father to another father with her mother. And I think that Katerina was trying to prepare Liz for the life that was hers, and I think that he allowed it. And I think there is a deep shame about it. And shame is an emotion that is very hard for a man like Red to acknowledge.
Maybe.
So that's all. I said one more thing is Liz saying, oh, she didn't know who we were. And I do think that she didn't know that Tom was Christopher, but she certainly knew that she was Masha, Rostova, and Liz. So I think that, and Red Faye was like, okay, I'm not going to answer that one. So I thought it was interesting that the way that they play that. Let's see what happens when she realizes that Scotty knew perfectly well who she was and still attack her wedding because Rostov has some dirt on her. From where I'm standing, it makes perfect sense. The whole everything that has happened makes
I,
perfect sense.
I was talking to a friend earlier, and I think I agree with her that it just comes down to where I see this show going with the dark ending. It the statement she made was that it puts such a cloud on everything else that it just feels pointless, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. It may be different in the end, and that's one reason I'm sticking it out, is because there's a small part of me that still hopes it's different. But it's prepare for the worst, or hope for the best and prepare for the worst. At this point, I'm kind of just so emotionally beaten down by this show, and there's been no emotional give on it recently. I mean, it if they think that the happy moments between King Squared are going to placate a bunch of people that enjoyed that, and then they brutally murder him and take her happiness, that's
But
not an understanding of the audience, in my opinion.
not
But
of the audience that are shippers. I think that the rest
we'll
of the
see.
audience will be perfectly fine.
We'll see.
Because every time, and I read in some of the um, articles that they were saying that that's going to strengthen her relationship with Ray, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. She's going to end up either killing Red or something, because that's the only reason they're going to make something strong and perfect is because they're going to break it down.
That's
In
the
this
thing.
genre, that's what it means. It's like, that when the spy finds the woman and they had a lovely time and he falls in love, it's like, oh no, you're so dead.
I see this. Ryan did a fantastic interview. It wasn't very widespread. I think it was out of Mexico City, I want to say. I have it gift. I enjoyed it so much. I gifted the interview, which I never do. But it was a discussion about the part that I liked was the discussion on Tom choosing to be Tom. And one of the things that he said was that this was a show about identity. And I agreed with him at the time, and up until very recently, I still agreed with him. And that's what I saw moving forward, was that this show was about a woman whose father had given up everything, including basically his own soul, to protect her, and had gone wrong. That he had given up so much that he almost lost his... Well, no, he did lose his way, trying to protect her, putting so much into it that he lost his ability to do that, because you can't predict and do everything. And I saw her, and in Tangent, because of her, Tom as well, as people that had a choice in front of them, that had to choose identity. Who they were, who they wanted to be, where they came from, who they were today, and who they wanted to be. And you and I have talked a lot about this, because we discussed in depth multiple times what we both considered the end of the season Keen Squared wedding. You said that you believed it'd be Christopher Hargrave and Elizabeth Reddington. And you and I disagreed about that on multiple occasions, that I thought that it was going to be Tom choosing to be Tom and Liz choosing to be Liz, because that's who they found themselves as. It's Liz dropped the perfect FBI agent as Elizabeth Keene. Tom found that he actually did want a family and built a family as Tom Keene, and that they chose and really found themselves through that, and that they would be better than the generation that came before them. And in that would pave a way for Agnes to be even better moving forward. That to me was where I saw this show going. You know what? John has every right to do whatever the hell he wants with this show. He's getting paid for it. He got the okay on it. He got the clearance. As long as they give him airtime, whatever, man. But that is not where I saw this going. It is a if it is this fatalistic show that Liz is red and she can't escape that, and that she can't, that everything she held dear is taken from her at the end of this, at the end of 5+ seasons, that is not the show that I personally signed up for. And that, the whole point is, from the conversation my friend and I were having, that darkens the outlook on where we're at, especially after 4.5 seasons of truly believing it was a hopeful and better ending of a generation choosing to be better. Because, I mean, let's face it, in the world we live in, we hope the next generation's better, and the next generation's better. We hope that we make the choices each generation that our parents couldn't for whatever reason. And that's a hope for humanity, whether it happens or not. That's still a hope. And that's really what I saw in a show about identity, about choosing who you are. I guess either I was wrong, or we'll see by the end of the show. But that is where I'm coming from on it, and I think a lot of people are having that struggle right now, especially a lot of the people that have left, because a lot of people have, at least in the fandom.
A lot of this, and you will tell me if you have seen a lot of people saying that they would leave, that they were not shippers.
I said in the fandom. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that watch otherwise, because I'm a nerd. Most of my friends are nerds.
No, but shippers. I'm talking about shipping.
Most fandom people are shippers.
Okay.
You are an oddity. Most fandom people tend to ship one way or the other, especially in this particular fandom. I can count on one hand the people I know that don't loudly ship what they do.
There you go.
In this fandom,
I could have told you that was, and that's what I always said. The King 2 are the ones that are probably going to be happier. That will end up happier at the end of the season. And I never meant it as like, oh, they're going to get everything they want. They're just going to get something. But if you come into this kind of show thinking that you're going to get that, I think that, you know, that there might be a reason for it, or not a reason. There may be a hope that Agnes is better. But the theme of the show is secrets put people in harm's way. That is, and that was said by Tom, secrets put people in harm's way. But the point of a show and the genre is that the people who become spies and survive as such do so because they are inclined to keep secrets, to manipulate, use, and do all the things that are necessary to thrive in it. And people who live like that cannot live in the light. You can't have both. It doesn't happen. Espionage is a very dirty business. It's also what keeps us safe. It's been going on for all the time. And if you think about another character who expressed the same, some of us have to live in the dark so others live in the light. So that is it. It's not fatalistic. It's just that's who they are. And will Agnes be different? Only if she chooses to. But Red, not until and I bet that at one point Liz is going to come back and her choice is going to be, do I take Agnes and breed her myself, or I leave her in this happy ignorance pretending that if she doesn't know who I am, then she's going to be a different person. She won't, because it's who she is. That's what, it's not a dark story. It's not a story without hope. It's a story about when character becomes something that you can escape because it's who you are. It doesn't matter how many choices you make. Tom was making choices, and at the end, what did he do? He reverted to who he was. He kept a secret from Liz, and that secret killed him. With the best intention. He was not set up to do that. He was not trying to mislead her. It was not done with malicious intent. He was just trying to get away from Red secret. He kept a secret himself, and that's what happened. And that's what they will all do because it's who they are.
Well, we'll see. We'll see at the end of the show how it pans out, and you and I may just have a different opinion on Hope. On
I'm not, because I'm not a romantic. I never had I don't define hope as we're going um to be who we are not. I think that there's limits. And maybe, I'm far more fatalistic than a lot of people are. And I think that there is not a point about being sad or last of hope. There's also, like what Red has, is finding the joy in the little things that you can, being who you are.
we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think you and I have very different opinions on what a hopeful ending is for this
Okay,
show.
now
You're
let
not
me
going
ask
to
you.
convince me to have a different opinion on a
No,
hopeful
no, no, no,
ending.
no.
Okay.
No, 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 no. What I'm asking is, after hearing what I had, the way I see the episode, did you at least feel that you could look at it a little different, or none at all? Or
I
just a
could ask you the
completely
same, but I already know the answer, so I don't know why I would bother.
fair enough. But how about you? Because I liked it and you didn't.
Oh, I
And I eat
hated
chocolate,
it.
so this is a rumbling.
I hated the show. I will probably continue to. Oh, I hope I don't. I hope that they eventually figure it out. No, the writing bothered me too much. It's not going to be a favorite. It will never be a favorite of mine. I had one friend that, what was it she said, that it was endure not enjoyed to get to the rest of the season, rest of the back half of the season, or something along those lines. And I was like, yeah, it's fair. it's it's clouded for me right now. The entire show has been clouded in this deep, dark horror that they've either decided to go down, and maybe they decided it from the get-go, who knows.
That
But
was always planned.
you
She was
think it
always going to go
was,
there.
but you're the only person I've ever spoken to that thought that way. I mean, you may be the lone person that was right, but you were the only person I've spoken to that feels that way. And I've spoken to quite a few people.
And I'm probably the one that has the rate of more things predicted right.
See, you keep saying that, but I had a pretty good prediction rate. I don't flaunt it, but I did. I had people, because I did it very subtly. I made small comments a lot of times in private, and I wrote fan fiction. And
you got the Keen spot right. But I mean, you were unbelievable with Tom. I absolutely relied on you to get my Tom right,
and
because sometimes I wouldn't be reading it right.
I am absolutely pointless in this fandom now. I'm here to be the bitter individual. That's my point now.
I mean, to me, as I said, to me, it's a matter of genre. I love the episode. I thought that Megan Boone did a terrific job.
I will say that Megan was phenomenal in it. Megan was top notch.
She had this like little expression where she was killing the guy. She was enjoying it.
Oh, she's gotten better and better as time's gone on. I mean, she started pretty good, but she's gotten very good. I mean, she's worked with some great actors. I'm sure she's learned from them, and just doing the job, you learn a lot about yourself, about how to do it, about how you want to be. And so, no, she has spent 4.5 years on this set as Elizabeth Keen, and she's very good at what she does. I will say that, as much as I disliked the episode, Megan was good in it. Kudos to Megan. Look, I found something positive.
See? Good.
I had that at the beginning.
Well, I know.
Anyway, on that note, I think we've about ripped this one to shreds.
Well, you've ripped it to shreds. I happen to like it. And I happen to think that I always knew this was going this way. I never expected it to get, to be different, because I know this it's a battle for Liz's soul. And at the end, I always refer people to Lena's Krill. The more time you spend with your parents, the more you're going to find about yourself. Will she be able to change the mold, we will not have known until she were in exactly the same circumstances as Red. Because before, it was blah, blah. She was not making anything different. What she did, well, um, Red may have never talked to Katerina if she's alive and he knows where she is, or if my theory is correct. Liz shot the guy and tortured him in a boat for 4 months. So she's worse than Red. Red didn't get to do that with Katerina. Liz is very different. She's worse than him. So I wasn't ever thinking that, oh, she's going to be much better than Red. No, she's Katerina's daughter too, and we haven't met Katerina except in memories. Remember when she appeared in Requiem and everybody was like, oh my God, there's a little bitchy woman here. She's cold. She's manipulative. Huh?
I loved her there.
But she was manipulative. She was pretty crazy.
I've always, like, in every incarnation that we've seen of Kat, I've really liked her. And so, I don't know. Maybe I'm just twisted.
I do too, but I don't think that she's a good person.
Oh, no. I never said she was. But she's a twisted soul. But it doesn't mean I don't like her.
She's delightful. The way she bashed that guy's head in Red Hallucination, that was beautiful. She was going in with abandonment.
Anyway, all right. Have we about run this course?
I think we have, and after ingesting all that wine and the port, we're still talking to each other. That's a positive.
I told you, I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at the show. All right, guys. Well, welcome back from hiatus. Whether you hated it or loved it, here we are, and we'll see you next week. We're on Facebook, on Tumblr, and on Twitter. Please feel free to leave us a message, and you can catch the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube.
And I want to do a little shout out to all the people who have written to us in Tumblr. And we've answered them in Tumblr. But if you have something that you want us to cover, please tell us so.
Yes, we have heard from several people on Tumblr and a couple on Twitter as well. So hi guys, we love you. Please talk to us. We do respond back for the most part, unless we miss it. And sorry.
Don't.
We try not to. And so there have been a couple of times on Tumblr that Tessa and I are answering the exact same question at the exact same time. That's always fun. Anyway, until next week.
See you next week, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.